We're sitting here in the LSU Hall of Fame room, which, as we were saying before we went on the air, I grew up watching you play, and I know that's probably shocking to you, but watching your teams play here and the legacy of LSU baseball. But I want to talk a little bit about, I mean, you got an awesome story. I mean, you were a legend when we were here, and you don't know this. So I think the very first alumni weekend that we had, remember it was at the Bluffs, it was pouring down rain?
I felt like we've had so many
Maybe.
reunions because Coach Burton was always bringing the old teams back,
Yeah, they
which
were.
was kind of nice, you know.
But you put a golf cart in the lake.
No, I remember that.
Okay. And then I think
that weekend cost me money.
And I think you also did something with the rental car.
Yeah, the rental car.
Yeah.
It was-
Okay. The reason
I didn't put the golf cart in the lake, but the rental car's true. It's really great to be here.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for that. Thanks for that.
What an intro, right?
I know, really.
I mean, I'm sitting here like, you're like, oh hell, what the hell, bring back all the
No,
negatives.
the golf cart's not true, but the rental car is, and that cost me some cash.
Okay, so we have to talk about that. But
Always get the rental car insurance.
Always?
Always.
Not everybody does what you do for a living.
Well, let's move on.
Okay, so let's go there. So I
Yeah.
want to kick right into it is, you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this podcast was you had a transition from an athlete into a completely different role. Actor, stuntman. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff.
Thanks. It's been a, I mean, no, you know, everybody has a story too. You know, it's just LSU has really shaped my life in so many ways. And I don't say that. I just know that when a director pulls me off the side when I was doubling Dennis Quaid across the street at Tiger Stadium 30 years ago, I mean, that was 1988. And the director, Taylor Hacker, goes, "Hey, Papajohn, you're athletic. You're seem like you're a great guy. People like you. You'd be a great Hollywood stuntman." And I didn't really know how to handle that, you know. But I go, well, I know one person that does know something about the movie business, and that's Skip Bertman. And I wanted to ask him. The director said, "You should move to Hollywood and be a Hollywood stuntman." So I went across Nicholson to talk to Coach Bertman about it. And I remember we closed. Everybody's got their Coach Bertman stories, but it was one of those moments where he goes, "What's up, Papajohn?" And I closed his office story. He had the cigar going.
Yeah.
He had the cigar going, and he said, "I said, hey, Coach, you know, this director across the street wants me to move to Hollywood and be a stuntman. And you know, since you coached Andy Garcia and you always talk about Mickey Rourke and you talk about Miami Vice, you know something about the movie business. What do you think?" And he took a big hit of the cigar and blew it up, and he goes, "Whew." He goes, "What's great about that, Papajohn? See, you can go to Disneyland with your family and no one will bother you." And I go, "Coach, what the hell are you talking about, Disneyland?" He goes, "See, you're a stunt man, and you'll be a stunt double. No one will know who you are. So you go to Disneyland, and no one will know who you are. But whoa, if you become a famous actor," he goes, "Disneyland could be tough." And
Perspective.
And, I know, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Hey, go out there and you know, do what you did at LSU, Pop. Go give it a shot. You know, be a team player." And I would say this, that he always encouraged me, and he has actually given me more breaks in Hollywood than any agent or manager, anybody that represent me. And I have a bunch of those stories with Augie Garrido and 411 The Game and Spider-Man. But I guess that moment of him, I go, because I was so confident playing defense for LSU because we do the fundamentals and how to handle pressure, because it was huge. And there's, you know, being a player yourself, you know how many things you take away. But my thought was, I'm so confident playing center field, I wanted the ball hit to me. And I wanted the ball hit to me with the game on the line. And I wanted to throw the guy out the home plate. And I wanted the ESPN ball, we called it, where, and I said, how can I walk on a Hollywood set and feel the same confidence, you know, of like I'm playing center field for LSU. And me and Coach Bertman had that conversation. He goes, "You got to go to work." And I've always been huge on mentors and coaching, and I've always seek the best.
So I want to come into that because
Yeah.
you talked a couple keywords for me that I'm like itching to get to. But I want to go back to that.
And you can always interrupt me too.
No. I'm mesmerized. You got to remember, like I'm a fan. I know that's making you uncomfortable, but like I'm telling you, we're in this Hall of Fame because I watched you play. And I was a 5-year player here. But not only was I a 5-year player, I grew up here for high school and 8th grade. So I used to come to the box, and your teams were my teams, man. I mean, I remember seeing you, there was one night there was a rain out, guys out there sliding on the tarp, and You know, like that's, like I was that guy. And so when you're sitting here talking about it, I can see you playing in those fall games and those, bigger games and scenarios. And I'm sitting there thinking, I remember when Everybody's All-American was casting. I remember the radio on WFMF, 102.5, gymnasium was like, hey, if you can dress in 1960s clothes, go out, or 50s clothes. How did that happen?
Well, that's a great question, and most people don't ask me that. It was being at the right place at the right time, and just coming out of, I was going into the weight room, and
You were done playing?
Yeah, I was done playing.
Were you playing professional?
No, I was my last semester.
Okay.
And it was my last semester, and I was going in the locker room to work out, and Rob Leary and Greg Fontenot and I'm going to miss a couple other players, but they were coming out of the locker room, and they were going, hey man, we're going to go talk to Coach Erber about being a football player in the movie. And I go, I'll go too. And I went with him. And if I wouldn't have been in that little interaction, so we ended up talking to Lou Erber. He was a technical advisor for all the football players, and we sat there and where they have the first pitch banquet, where they used to with that hotel in Baton Rouge, and we sat down with Coach Erber, and he hired us, and I think I had $11 in my checking account, and they were giving us, I don't know, it was like $1,500 a week, to be, and they were looking for LSU athletes that weren't eligible anymore to just fill in as players.
Sure.
And then it got to the point where they needed people to take hits and deliver hits, and they saw me do this hit with Rob Leary and Fontenot in the end zone, where I did this upside down or 360 Miami Dolphin thing, and the director wanted me to double Dennis Quaid, and then I started taking the football hits.
So you were taking the hits. There's one of you pretty famous on the sidelines, right?
Well, yeah.
Because you got to remember, you were like a legend when I was playing. I mean, here you are in Hollywood. I mean, guys think that they can get dates being an LSU baseball player, but you're a Hollywood guy.
Well,
I mean,
you go back 30 years and
heck with Ben McDonald. I mean, you were like bigger.
Oh man, come on, come on now. No, you know what? It's interesting. I feel, what really comes to my mind about 30 years ago, and being every time I'm on the freeway and I go by what we call interstate now, but freeway, California, the Memorial Stadium. That's where I took a lot of those hits right off, and then took a lot of hits in Tiger Stadium, and they had those Tim Fox and AJ Dewey, and they had a lot of NFL players, that were just got finished playing in the NFL, and the equipment was a lot older then, and I'm just 22, man. I'm so excited to take hits. They'd hit on me all day and give me a rest day, and hit on me again, and a couple black eyes, but I'll just never forget that moment. Taylor Hackford pulling me off the side, giving me a trophy, which is in my office, world greatest hit man.
Nice.
And on a
did you have any experience? Did they teach you how to take hits, or did you just?
No, that conversation with Taylor was real heartfelt. Papajohn, you're athletic and you're a good guy. I think you should move to Hollywood and be a stuntman. And I'm just the way he looked at me, being the director of the film, it changed my mindset of, hey, well, let me go get some, okay, that sounds great, but let me go get some advice. And Skip, if Skip would have said, now, Pop, the chances of...
What would you have done if you hadn't done that?
Oh, I was going to work for Richard Lipsey. Hey, Richard, thanks for the job. I was going to sell Converse in the Southeast. I was all set up to...
Yeah.
But I did go out to the Orioles. I went to spring training. I gave it my shot. I'm big on kind of letting it give 110%, let the chips fall where they're going to fall. And I knew I gave baseball everything I could, and that wasn't going to work out. So I was able to. But Richard had my job lined up to sell Converse in the Southeast. And then after talking to Coach Burton, he said, "Go out there, drive out there, and give it a shot." And
so talk to me about that. You go out to LA.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know these stories, right? You're out there now, and you want to make it big out in LA, and you got this opportunity, and you're a man chasing a dream. And it was a dream that's kind of a new dream. I mean, it wasn't something you dreamt about your entire life. How did you get your first gig? I mean, what did you have to do? How does that go? I mean, where do you even start?
Well, you start by, I'm a big team player guy, and I don't know, man. Everybody uses the word grinded, hustling. What I did was I did something really smart, man. I played in every softball league there was in Hollywood.
That's a good move.
From the Stuntman softball league to the agents, and actor league to, and I was, I was a former LSU player, so I was running down some balls and throwing some people out, and also having a lot of fun. And I got a lot of work, built a lot of relationships real quick through those softball leagues. But then I did extra work. I was Bruce Willis's photo double on Moonlighting. But there was a thing with stunt coordinators and getting in with them. And there's a guy named Gary Davis that helped me a lot that was on Everybody's All-American, and he kind of put me under his wing. And I remember going to Roadhouse and being an extra on Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, and he goes, Papajohn, you got to come here and meet a lot of stuntmen, and he was introducing me around, and I just kind of played to my strengths, did a lot of baseball commercials, the Gatorade type, head first slides, got a sports agent where would represent me in commercials, so I try to look at my strengths, and being an athlete was a strength, and the extra jobs turns into. There's a transition where I doubled Adam Sandler and Waterboy, and that was a big transition.
That was a big moment.
That was a big moment.
That's been what, 20, how long has that been now?
Oh, that's 20 years ago. We had
20 years.
20-year Fun Dog reunion here a couple weeks ago here in Baton Rouge.
So, Waterboy is a massive break, but before then, you were in you were in For Love of the Game.
Yeah.
Mr. Baseball?
Yep. Mr. Baseball was before that. I had some movie credits.
I remember watching that on a bus coming back from a road trip.
Right.
And
Tom Selleck,
and you're sitting in the dugout.
Frank Thomas was in that.
Frank Thomas, that's right.
That Auburn guy.
Yeah. And you're sitting there in the dugout.
The Big Hurt.
Yeah, the Big Hurt.
Yeah.
You're sitting there in the dugout. And
Yeah.
we're all like, that's Papajohn.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
besides that reunion where you put the car on two wheels, I mean, your stories are legendary.
I did have some movie credits,
Yeah.
and I was working in an acting class, and I knew I went and read for Thelma and Louise. I never tell this story, but it was at a moment where Tony Scott, Ridley Scott, they're directors out, and one of them passed away, but they were directors that did Top Gun and Gladiator. I mean, they're getting bigger than that. And one of them said, "Hey, he liked my look and thought I should take acting classes," and I went and read for Thelma and Louise. I got in there and read for Thelma and Louise, and I just tanked the audition, man. I didn't have the training, to be in that type of room.
It's role?
No, it was Harvey Keitel's role outside the bar, but I was reading those sides, you call sides of your audition, and I walked down the stairs, and I was so down that I just bombed this audition, and there's no way I could, and then that's the moment it clicked, like, Coach Berger talked about mentors and coaching and training, and then I started taking the classes, and while most stuntmen were hustling the stunts, I knew I wanted to act and move my mouth and make money.
So, I'm just fascinated because I love the point of what you're saying about building a brand, building what you are is by hustling. You found a way to get it done. Too many people think it just needs to knock on the door. You bang down the doors. And you move from being a stuntman to being an actor. I'm still fascinated by this, I don't call it serendipitous, but it's almost like you had no intentions of doing this, and yet you've made it into a hell of a career.
Yeah, I'm like a little kid. People ask me, what's it like being an actor, Papajohn? I go, it's like 7 or 8, and it's Halloween, and what are you going to be? I'm still a lot of kid-like quality, which I believe I'll always have. But there's moments.
Who was it? Peter Parker's dad?
Yeah, we'll get to that. And that was through Coach Burton, which is a great story. But I just remember being on Titanic, drowning. There's moments of doing a racer with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but
why didn't you Titanic? Why didn't you just grab onto the board? It was right there.
Man, I drowned so many different ways on that movie. It wasn't one way. I got sucked in the ship through a window. I jumped over the side. We were all drowning a bunch of different ways. It was like 16 American stuntmen. There were stuntmen from all over the world, and I got chose to because I did a movie called Starship Troopers.
I remember that.
And I met the stunt coordinator on that job, and he knew I was athletic, which got me on Titanic to work for a guy named Simon Crane. But Titanic, I knew after Titanic when I did Waterboy, right after Titanic, I took a hit playing. It's the hardest job I've ever had. It was a single bar face mask. I know it's a high comedy, but I'm real proud of that job because it was real physical, and I was Bobby Boucher taking every hit, delivering every hit. You know, Adam Sandler's a great guy to work for. He's very generous. I could go on and on about Adam and the people he hires around him. But I got hit. We were in the Bourbon Bowl, and I had to get that onside kick and jump up and down with that ball, and a lineman hit me right underneath the rib. He wasn't supposed to hit me, and he slammed my shoulder in the ground, and my mouthpiece flew out. And it was at that moment I go, man, you know, I can't, like, in my mind, I go, I got to move my mouth and make money and transition into an action actor. And
is that a tough transition to make, to go from
absolutely
stuntman to
yeah.
that? Because is there a stereotype?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like stuntman can't act.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
And a
It's
lot
like
of
pitchers can't hit.
yeah, it's some, but there is and there are pitchers.
I'm not salty
Chris
about
Hammond.
Yeah, Chris from Birmingham.
My high school guy, my high
That's
school
right.
teammate.
In the stadium.
Talking about coaching, I looked right at the camera. I had always great coaching in Little League. Chris Hammond's dad, his brother was in the big leagues. Would come up to the field. I go to coaching, but I get chill bumps talking about it because I have to always acknowledge even my Little League coaches were great. Coach Hammond and Coach Cockwood, and we always played at high levels, but I didn't know it was a Little Leaguer. We were just, you know, fundamentals, man, fundamentals. And I went and I got to play for Sammy Dunn at St. Louis High School, and he totally.
Casey's a good buddy of mine.
Casey, it's awesome at Sanford. I'm real proud of him. I love the Dunn family, but you know, being with Sammy Dunn and having that, and then going to the Gulf Coast and knowing Coach Dunn loved fundamentals so much, but this guy's absolutely crazy. You know, I mean, you know, he'd throw up before the big games. We had to wait till he threw up before we. But going to Gulf Coast, I knew in the outfield that I would always start because fundamentally I just was always
You were just a better
player. And then that, you know, to play for Coach Bergman, which the difference in that was pressure, team player. I mean, pressure. You know, playing on.
Let's talk about that with Skip because I'm gonna meet with Skip on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a podcast and you know I share all the time the impact he's made on me, and we talked about it before we went on started recording. But you just said it, and it's pressure. Nobody understood. I mean, Skip created. He told me one day we were talking, and I said, Coach, what is the thing that you're the most proud of as a coach? And he said, well, let me just say I'm proud of my boys for graduating. Okay. And I said, yes, I get all that. He goes, 5 national titles is special. But he said, someone gave me a stat one time from the NCAA that said my boys performed the best, had the highest winning percentage in high-pressure games in the history of college baseball. And he goes, you know why? He goes, you do this for a living. You know why? I said, well, he goes, because I prepared you for that, because not everybody can handle it. If you didn't want to be here and you couldn't handle it, I found you a new place to go, and I only wanted the boys that could handle it.
Right.
I mean, that's what you're talking about, pressure.
Well, I was the first batter to ever represent LSU in Omaha. And I was leading off, and a Lola Marymount guy threw a slider at my head that came in for a strike, and I half swung. It was a really bad strikeout. And I started breathing very heavy, and I'm walking back to the dugout.
1986.
Yeah, and you know, I could have used the MindSide. I'm breathing very heavy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I let down.
Could you believe that Rosenblatt Stadium could spin? It did for me.
What's that?
Rosenblatt Stadium was able to spin.
Oh.
When I went out to the game against Florida State, I was like, man, this damn building is spinning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
and the wind.
Yeah.
Well, I just walked back to the dugout, and I was in trouble. I mean, I was thinking about letting my Birmingham folks down, my high schools, Coach Dunn, LSU fans. I went to a really bad place, and I couldn't breathe. And I'm breathing real fast. And Coach Bergman saw me, and he pulled me in the training room, and it was like he saw the ESPN cameras, and he got me in there, and I just remember just talking to him. It was very calm. It was like we're drinking eggnog at Christmas. I tell the story, and I don't even know what he said, but he calmed me down, and he sent me back out there. And I think if he would have benched me, I don't think I'd be here with you talking about the movie business and doing what I love to do for a living and going on a Hollywood set. There's a lot of pressure there, and I don't care how much you do it. I'm in the trailer, and when I'm putting on my costume or my wardrobe, I always think about the World Series. There are no small parts, man. You got to go. And I just think about having the nerves and how I can use the nerves positively.
Talk about that. Do you mind? Because I get players that text me, I'm nervous, I'm stressed, and I'm like, let's not judge them, let's roll with them.
Yeah, I can use them. I'm excited, man.
Yeah.
Instead of the nerves, I'm excited. Or playing roles, how can you use those nerves in the role? You know, instead of trying to push it away.
So you just pull it in?
Breath is important. Breathing. I mean, just breathing. I mean, through, you know, just being able to breathe and feel your feet on the ground. And I know if I'm prepared, because even in LSU, the big games, you're feeling your feet on the ground, you feel it in your body. And for me, every role is different on how I'm going to prepare, how I'm going to show up on that set. And some jobs I have to prepare more than others, but it's, you know, it goes back to, you know, I go in the trailer, I thank the man upstairs for this job, and then I say, watch over me, and then I go out that trailer door, and I just feel very blessed to be there, attitude of gratitude type, being a team player, and just letting it rip, you know, like, once you prepare, you can do no wrong,
Yeah.
you know, like letting that looseness happen.
So what does it take to prepare as an actor? Because, you know, in my mind, I'm sitting there, you know, we've heard the stories of who is it that, you know, goes into character and stays in character for days and weeks, and
Mhm.
you know, you hear those folklore things. Are those true?
Well, absolutely. There's, you know, every actor's different.
Okay, they have their method.
Yeah, everyone's different. And I remember seeing Christian Bale for the first
That's what I was
time on
thinking about.
Terminator Salvation. Man, I saw him walked in the trailer. He was wearing a black leather outfit, and I go, man, I want to be on his team. You know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, he was just had a mindset of, man, he was there to take on the world, whatever he was doing, and that was in hair and makeup. Now, for me personally, I, you know, talk about Tim Phillips is an audition coach I love a lot, and I know Larry Moss really shaped my life a lot, acting coach also, and breath, you know, a lot has to do, it's not about you, it's about telling the story, you know, and a lot of times, props, I love props, anytime you're handling your wallet or a cigarette, or, you know, own your props. You know,
Make it part of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't be a hack, man. Do not be a hack.
What do you mean?
Well, maybe if you're taking a hit of a cigarette and you don't smoke,
Uh,
and you don't inhale the cigarette, that's a hack.
that's a hack.
Eating, when you're eating, find ways to eat and really eat if you're going to eat.
Don't act like you're drinking an empty cup.
Yeah, and when you pick up luggage, I tell them to put a rock in it, man.
Make it feel heavy.
Yeah, no, why act that? Throw a rock in it, make it heavy. So we could go on, and God is in the details with, you know,
Yeah.
I mean
That's
that.
fascinating though. Okay, so you use Christian.
But I love the, I love my coaches and mentors and people I've worked with, because they go into the details of
Well,
you know,
I mean, here, right?
Oh,
The
big
popcorn.
time.
You got to make sure the popcorn's salty and hot. You got to make sure that the nachos are fresh.
Right,
You know,
right.
we laugh about it, but it's true.
I love acting with other athletes, you know, because they have if someone played at a high level, or in college, or maybe was a great wrestler in high school, there's something to do with hitting a tennis ball and they hit it back,
Yeah.
you know, so.
What was been the role that you were part of and you said, man, this actor that I'm with is a savant. I mean, just brilliant. And what made him brilliant?
David Strathern, just worked with him on Walk Away Joe, and I got to play a coach. But he's from, you would know him, he's been in you would know him if you saw a picture of him, he's in a lot of all the Born Legacies. But I just worked with, every movie I've done, I have a story. You know, you have a story, I'm working with an A-list person. But I don't know, I just worked with him, and you know what? It was great talking about you, because I know, you know, your background and what you do. He was so aware of his surroundings. You know, like, just he was aware of looking over his right shoulder and knew who was behind him. And, you know, I told him that afterwards. I go, you know, I've been doing this over 30 years, and you did something in our scene that made me want to look at my work. You know, of you were so aware of everything that was going on.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
I had no idea we were going to talk about this, but yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of times that I do things and I see somebody in my field do something, I'm like, man, that makes me look at my work. And there's a part of me at first I look at it and I'm like, God, why didn't I think of that? Or why wasn't I good enough? And yet I changed the way I look at that as a blessing. is that you can't think of everything all the time, but when somebody gives you a gift like that, to be I don't want to say critical is not the word, but self-analytical, to go back and look at what you're doing to make it better, that's a major gift.
Well, John Goodman gave me, when I knew I wanted to act, I was in his trailer after I worked with him on Everybody's All-American, and I said, John, I really want to do this. I want to transition from a stuntman to an actor. And I was doing The Babe with him, and
I filmed in Danville, Illinois, where I played summer baseball. Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
It's the first time I ever had a limo, and the limo picked me up at the airport, and it had no hubcaps. So
You guys have to understand, listening to this, Danville, Illinois is on the Indiana border.
right,
And it's an old baseball park where they played the summer league. And it was great, but the claim to fame was where the Babe was.
yeah,
And right over the border in Indiana is the federal penitentiary.
mhm.
And so Danville has a lot of people who work there. It's an interesting place.
Well,
Home of Jerry Van Dyke.
I had no
and Dick
idea.
Van Dyke.
No idea, but I was a fan. I was a heckler, and but I got to sit with John Goodman and have an adult beverage beer and talk acting and tell him that I really loved it and I really want to transition. You know, and he said, "Hey, Pop, man, make it your toolbox." I remember. He said, study with different people. That was just number one. He said, steal from actors, and then he goes and just find out what works for you and make it your toolbox. And I'm still stealing, from David the other day, right? But to be able to talk to him about that, going, man, acknowledge him and go, I really love working with you. Not going, hey, I'm a huge fan because you've done this and this. I just go, in that moment, you were just aware of what was going on. So we got to talk acting but I'm watching Netflix and these series, and I'm always learning, but I love when I just don't walk on a set and I really think about my props and where I came from and think about main thing is, man, I got one thing, I'm Southern and I'm an authentic guy, I'm a real dude, and I try to always just be real, just be authentic and listen. And what I will say with the camera right in front of me now, what I'm finding out, when I went to LSU and I went up to the movie business, we love to tell stories. That's how you build relationships. And I think there's nothing wrong with social media and all that, but people are in their phones so much, there's a connection of just telling a story, that people are missing out on. I don't want to get off on that.
No, but you're right. I mean, the reason I love coming back to our alumni weekends.
Oh, yeah.
I hang out with the 5 years of the guys I played with, right? And right before I met with you, I met with Patrick Coogan's, a kid who, Patrick did something, you're talking about impact. So I don't want to say Patrick was a freshman when I was a senior at Catholic High School.
Yeah.
And Patrick's dad was my kid's pediatrician, and our families always sat together. And I always tell the story about Patrick, just about families, is when his dad passed away, and he called me, and he just called me one day and he said, I just wanted to hear your voice, just because you're like a big brother. And it was like, it touched me. But I remember sitting there telling stories, and we eat lunch today, and we started it's like brothers. I mean, I'm the only child, but just to have that storytelling, that connection. You have that thread here at LSU baseball, and you're wearing the shirt, and you're back here from Hollywood, living in Baton Rouge, and yet every time we see you on movies, we all talk about it. I mean, it's cool.
No, it's totally cool.
It's so cool.
I see my buddies that are actors, and I go, that is so cool. He was in that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know how competitive the business is, and I've always been a big fan of. I just know I've been studying with a lot of different people, and I know a lot of actors that have quit. Quit the business. Really talented people.
What's your long play?
Oh, that's a long play. That's a good one. I'm a documentary filmmaker at heart. I am. I started watching documentaries. A guy named Nick Broomfield when I was studying with Larry Moss, and he was a filmmaker. And I just started watching his documentaries, and so I started picking up cameras and filming people, mentors and coaches. And so I've been working on Coach Burton's documentary, but I've been working on some other documentaries for 15, 20 years of getting content on people that are really good at what they do. And but the long play is this, man. I'll always act, but I'm in the process of forming a production company here because Louisiana offers some great tax incentives. Quality of life is great for me here, and you can always travel and work. But I want to tell some stories, man, and continue to tell stories, have ownership in my company on the stories I tell. And I'm big on coaches because I think I can really do something special with kids, sports that change kids' lives through coaching, through great coaching and mentors. You know, even Buddy Anderson, my high school coach. I mean, there's so many coaches out there. But,
yeah. What are I think one of the risks that we have psychologically with kids is that kids are not as competitive as they used to be. You know, the competitive nature of kids. It's become a platform I've been working on lately, which is the fact that years ago you and I would have played baseball in our backyards. I mean, or the park, maybe 2-on-2.
Now, what are you talking about? Against the garage throwing a tennis ball.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't
where I
need
learned to pitch.
That's where I learned to feel some good ground balls.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
do that
need
now.
anybody. I didn't need anybody
Yeah,
to play tennis
Yeah.
ball against the garage.
yeah. And my dad used to take me in the backyard and hit pop flies with tennis ball and tennis racket.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how I learned to catch pop-ups.
Uh-huh.
But kids don't do that. You know, I can't remember last time I saw kids outside playing baseball, unless they're in an organized practice.
That's a great. It's interesting. I just know 7, 8, and I jumped to this. My parents got a divorce. I didn't understand what was going on. I'm 7, 8, 9 years old. Well, no, that's 7 or 8. And the reason I tell you this story, I saw a documentary that it's 7 Up. Every 7 years, this guy films a documentary. It's Michael Active. You got to check it out. It's 7 Up, 14 Up. He gets 12 kids when they're 7 years old.
Wow.
And he films them. And he waits 7 years.
What a
And
great
films them.
sociological
7 Up,
psychological.
14 Up, 21 Up, 28 Up, 35 Up, 42 Up. And went up to like in the 50s.
Huh.
But his whole brand was show me the boy or girl at 7, I'll show you the man. And it's interesting. When I interview people, I ask them, you know, a lot of times, and I love to sit down and interview too, is what were you thinking when you were 7, 8, 9 years old? And me personally, I didn't understand my parents' divorce, you know, what was happening in my life, but I had great coaching and Little League coaching at that time. You know, sports was there for me. But I was running around Alabama in the hot asphalt barefooted, dreaming of being Johnny Musso and wearing that tearaway for Alabama. I wanted to be Italian Stallion. And at that time, at 7 years old, I wanted to play for Bear Bryant. That's who I wanted to do. That's what I want to do. And it's crazy how that dream did come true because I played for the Bear Bryant in college baseball.
Yeah.
It was just a different sport.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I don't know, we went off on
That's
filmmaking
okay.
and
No, that's
documentaries
good.
and storytelling.
Yeah, no, it's all connected because I think people who listen to this podcast, you know, coaches or parents or kids, I mean, you said that at 7 Up, you know, I'm sitting there thinking that, you know, the value of coaches. I look back to my dad who's passed away, who's retired military. He was a college baseball player at the University of Toledo, he was a catcher. But when he coached, I never played on travel ball teams because we moved every 2 to 3 years. So when we moved to a new area, I was never on the legacy team. I was always on the teams that sucked.
Right.
But my dad would take kids, like, I remember one year our second baseman was a drummer. He was 13, had never played baseball before. My dad kept a chart on who played how many innings. Everybody played the same amount of innings during the course of the year.
Wow.
Because he wanted exposure. He said, I don't care if you ever played this sport in high school, you're going to learn the basics of baseball. And he never caved to parent, he'd educate parents. And it's a lot of the foundations that I work with my coaches and parents today is about things I learned from my dad to that point.
Right.
You know, coming here and I remember early in my career, I was like a 2.8 student. I didn't like school. I was good at it, but I didn't like it.
Right.
And then, you know, I always remember the skip thing, and you ardent desire, and you know, you really, really want whatever that quote is.
Right. It's right up there.
Yeah,
Anything
somewhere
you
up here.
vividly
Oh, there it
imagine,
is.
Ardently desire, sincerely believe, enthusiastically act upon, must, absolutely must come to pass.
Yes, that's
There
it.
it is.
And you know, that point for us is like, well, why can't I? I mean, why can't I do this? Tell me why I can't. And I think that was the skip thing. You probably get this. I go speak to coaches, and I'm like, oh, LSU baseball had the best talent ever. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Did you realize that player was a walk-up? Did you
Right.
realize that player had been bypassed and wasn't recruited by any other school? You know, Warren Morris, the kid who hit the home run at the bottom of the ninth inning, he was our flag football wide receiver because he couldn't play second base behind Todd Walker.
Right.
But
Right.
yet here he is as a legend. He's got a statue outside of Rosenblatt Stadium.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, well, yeah. That, I mean, I just think of Jeff Rabelais being, 12 to 14
Yeah.
years in the big leagues, Mark Guthrie,
Rob Leary.
yeah, I mean, the people that, on my team. I look back at my team, I swear, when like when you got that phone call from Coogan, when I'm down, and I've had some moments, I mean, where you want to give up and you want to quit. And, and I know those moments real well. And I've always clung to my team, just a phone call to hear Rabelais' voice, it's like, because you go back to, and that's what's special about our team too, is we did everything as a team. And I've never even said this either. I think I stayed connected at the low times where they, I've been able to reach out to them. And Rabelais was the Dodger out there. Rabelais is the reason I married my wife, Paula, and I have a 10-year-old Sean, and I met, that was whole Rabelais connection.
He was playing as coach.
He was playing with the Dodgers at the time. That's a different story.
So, what is it like for you guys? I mean, because when we won our first national title and our second, Coach always honored the players that played before us.
Mm.
We didn't have a ceremony honoring the teams that won the national title. We honored the teams that came before. We looked at you guys with unbelievable respect.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but the first national championship in '91, Coach Bergman offered to fly us all back in for that big get-together at the hotel, for the first pitch banquet. And I remember Jim Wells being there, and he flew us. Well, that rental car accident was all it all evened out because he flew me in. No, but they offered.
You were showing off.
No, well, they flew us in and they told us, hey, we want you to come back. And what a generous moment. I mean, the generosity thing, which I'm huge on, but the acknowledgement and generosity. And when I flew back, spur of the moment, to watch LSU play Alabama, and Jim Wells was my grad assistant coach at LSU at that time. He went on to coach for Alabama, and LSU's playing Alabama. And I flew, Skip got me the tickets, and I came in for that one championship game. And what's that dome after? What's the what's the hotel where everybody?
The Embassy Suites.
Yeah, where all the LSU fans LSU beats Alabama, the atrium, and it is packed.
Yeah.
And it is so crowded, and everybody's going crazy, and they're waiting for Coach Burton to come out, and all the media and everything. And Sandy came and grabbed my arm, and she goes, "Hey, Michael, Papajohn, Coach wants to talk to you." And he sat down, and we had an adult beverage, and we talked, and all he did was thank me and our team for, I wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for you guys. And that's not to acknowledge me or our team,
I know,
but it was a
is.
special moment.
Yeah, and that's amazing, because I would say any coach out there, look at the predecessors that came before you and don't turn them away from them, embrace them, because, here I am, 46 now, and I still remember your years. I remember seeing Ben McDonald at the SEC tournament in Hoover, and him talking about, he impacted Chad Oje, who impacted me, who I impacted Patrick Coogan, who impacted, the chain of events is pretty amazing when you look at it.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, because
give me how much longer we got. I'm in no hurry.
I know. Well, they're going to kick us out of this building eventually.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
although you do have a picture in here. I don't have a foot, but you have a picture we just found. It's pretty cool.
Man, that pumped me up. It made me feel so good. I didn't know it till the day.
It was
Thanks,
black and
Brett.
white though.
It doesn't matter.
I called the LSU athletic department years ago and I said, "Do you have any pictures of when I played?" Because I figured they had a vault. And they sent me one. It was in black and white.
Yeah.
Bill Frankis goes, "Well, that's all we could find. I think we probably lost those slides."
Does it show your name on the back? That's a matter.
Well, no, not really. Yours is on the back. I mean,
And you spotted it.
It was great. I mean, it was like right there.
We're close up.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
You often, we were laughing earlier about you killing Peter Parker's dad. Talk to me about that, though. Because is that what you're known for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But I think in our circle, we always, Papajohn killed Peter Parker's dad.
Yeah. Well, I killed his uncle.
Killed his uncle.
That's okay. I killed his uncle, and take a lot of pride.
Yeah, but that's right. His uncle was, that's right.
Yeah, Uncle Ben. I killed Uncle Ben.
You killed Uncle Ben.
I couldn't have killed Uncle Ben unless
his dad wasn't there.
Coach Berman had a huge thing, and we always go back to Coach Berman, but the quick story is they were casting For Love of the Game, the Kevin Costner movie, and I sent my tape to New York. I heard Augie Garrido was a technical advisor, and I'll kind of tell a quick version of the story. And I go, Augie Garrido's the technical advisor, so he's handling all the baseball players.
Augie Garrido of all the coaches in college baseball, he's up there on the Mount Rushmore with Coach Burton.
For sure.
And tremendous respect. He was a little bit of coach's kryptonite.
Right.
He always had coach's number.
Yeah.
He was a challenge, and I remember he was a good,
Yeah.
God, I don't know how many national titles he won, but it was a lot.
Well, Augie and Kevin Costner were buddies, and so Kevin wanted Augie on the film, and so I send this tape. I go, let me call up. I called, and I always I stay connected with LSU. You know how some people can leave and not stay connected with things, and I've always stayed connected. And I remember Coach Bergman took my call. He goes, "What's up, Papajohn?" I go, "Hey man, Coach, I go, do you know Augie Green?" He goes, "Yeah, I know Augie." I go, "Will you pick up your bat phone?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll pick up my bat phone." I called New York, and Augie's. I explained to him, and I said, "I just sent my tape to New York, and if you could throw a word in for me, because they're looking for baseball players that can act." And that was before when you sent a VHS tape.
VHS, I caught that, the tape.
Yeah, the tape. And 2 weeks later, I checked into Waldorf Astoria for 7 weeks, and I got to play Sam Tuttle. And that's where I met Sam Raimi, the director for Love of the Game. And Sam Raimi went on to do Spider-Man 2 years later, and he remembered me from For Love of the Game. And I told Coach, I said, "Coach, you've got to be more movies than any manager or agent. I never had to pay you 10%. And he's like, "Whoa,
Big guy, hold on."
Yeah.
What's the interest?
So, but that it really was a warp speed break for me in the movie business, because it opened me up to all these bad guy roles, where me being an action guy, where I could throw some punches, hit the ground, the director doesn't have to cut away, and you can actually be a stuntman that can handle dialogue. You know, be an action actor type guy.
What you have on the horizon acting wise?
I'm always trying out. You know, audition, and I get a lot of no's, and I get some yeses, and but I just did True Detective season 3.
Oh yeah.
So that airs in January 2019.
Do you watch yourself?
Oh yeah, because I'm all about. I want to impress my 10-year-old. That's fun. If I can impress him.
What role impresses him the most?
When he first saw Spider-Man, he was 5 years old, and he was watching this. And that's what I do. I record some of these movies that I know I'm in, and I can fast forward to them and find my spots. But when he saw me in Spider-Man, and like if I'm here and he's watching me, and the first time he was 5 years old, I'll never forget, he looked at me, and he looked at the screen, he looked at me, looked at the screen. He couldn't believe it was
That's
me.
So cool.
It made me feel so good. But I did Rim of the World, a Netflix movie, and then I just did this Walk Away Joe, where I was able to stunt coordinate the movie and also acted in it.
Yeah.
But I got to play a coach, and I mentioned that, and I channeled Sammy Dunn. Not to get because I really wanted to. I just walked down the field. I go, "I'm gonna be Sammy today," and I was able to wear the Stavy Hills Rebels hat in the movie, and I just talked to Sammy while I was. I don't know. I just had and I didn't know we were going to talk about all this.
I get it though. I get it. That's so cool.
I had a sense that he was there.
Yeah.
And he loved watching me, and I could do no wrong, and we were just having fun. And then I got to work with one of the best actors I've ever worked with while I was talking to. And I'm emotional now talking about it because I remember seeing Coach Dunn before he passed away, and I flew back to Birmingham from Los Angeles, and I went in his room, and he only had a few days to live, and he goes. And he was, he was medicated. He goes, man, I hate football. He started to hate football. He goes, "Papajohn, have you touched the turf?" I go, "What, Coach?" He goes, I just got Cincinnati Reds turf. Go touch the turf. And that's all he wanted to talk about. And I left last time I saw him. I went to the field and I touched the turf. And it's not a corny story, but I go back to Birmingham, man. And before I go see my parents, I'll go say hey to Buddy Anderson. You know what? I'll walk down to center field and I'll touch the turf. But I talk about Walk Away Joe. It just happened like last month. So, there's a lot of people that have shaped me, and be able to sit in this room and look around. And one thing I can tell you is, I didn't play with you, but I did play with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing of including all the players over the years. And that's what I don't think a lot of programs have, that reunion type quality of being able to hug one another. And for you guys to say, "Hey, Papajohn, I saw you in that movie. That is so cool."
Oh, yeah.
That means so. I get excited too, man. And
well, I mean, you are like I said, you're a legend for flipping the car on two wheels and breaking the axle.
Well,
Can
no.
we tell that story just are we out of the statute of limitations?
No, I can tell that story.
Okay.
I want to do, out of every movie I've ever done, man, when longest yard, when they call me guard Papajohn, I got more texts from LSU teammates than anybody. Holy shit, they used your real name. How did you pull that off?
Right.
You know?
Because the story about you on the wheels of the car,
Yeah.
so Greg Patterson and those guys,
Oh my God.
yeah, Patty's like, man, he comes back, I can't remember what it was the next day, but all of a sudden the story started being told. And you're like, I can drive this car on 2 wheels.
I was aggressive.
Stuntman.
I wanted to,
Yeah.
I'm an entertainer. I wanted to have fun with the guys, and it was drizzling, it was raining. I was taking some of these precision driving classes out in California, So I was pumped up, and all my old teammates were there, and we were at by the Waffle House off of College, by where Hooters is now, by Sullivan's, and.
Boy,
I did
that'll get you in trouble.
I did a couple 180s, that's where you turn the car like, and things are going good, and I started getting more amped up, and man, I did a 180, and my tire hit the curb, and it bent my tire, and I rolled up, man, everybody went, whoa, and I hit the sidewalk, but I remember riding up to Waffle House, and my car was like, bouncing.
Oh, and how did you turn that into the car?
No, yeah, towed.
Yeah.
The whole, did you get the insurance? No, but that's another thing. I got on a payment plan the whole
Okay,
way.
so here's folklore, right? As we're wrapping up, the story that I heard was that you started getting a little like, I'm going to show you, and you hit the curb trying to get it on 2 wheels. Folklore's getting larger.
Yeah.
Okay, the story is like
I cannot,
that bass was now this big.
I can't confirm or deny. If I said I was going to put the car on 2 wheels, but I think I hit the curb, and I was
So good.
aggressive. So,
It's a hell of a fraternity here.
man, it's a great time spending time with you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
what you're doing.
Thank you so
I know you're
much.
changing a lot of people's lives, and
Sure.
and I go back to that pressure day of having the panic attack, but what you're doing, the psychology of it, and being able to have the, I know your company's mindset, but man, I go back to those moments of the pressure and being a team player and trying to breathe what's really cool is I still get nervous, and that juices me that I'm living a quality life.
That you embrace it though. That's what I
Yes.
love. You're not judging it. You're actually saying, this is good.
Yeah.
This means I'm doing something right.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm going to go throw up, and like you have those moments of like, how am I going to pull off playing this role, whatever it might be. But you go back to the work, and what do you need to do to show up on that day, and to be present, be authentic, and let it rip. There's something about letting something rip, where the director comes up and says something to me, I know I've done my work, and Papajohn, that wasn't.
That wasn't very good.
Oh, no, not.
They ever tell you that? That was terrible?
No, they don't do
Yeah,
that. That would be, there's different type directors. I've been on low budget, medium budget, huge budget. So I've been able to make my toolbox with the people that are really good at what they do. And some people aren't really good communicators. And you can't take that personally. You got to go back to the role. I remember doing Selma, and I had a lot of pressure that day to play Major John Cloud because he's a real guy. And, that bridge scene and the march, them coming over the bridge, and I had the megaphone, and the first take, I just let it rip. And I said a lot of things that weren't in the script. But I listened to it for 7 hours, The Real Guy on YouTube, from Baton Rouge to Selma. And the director came up to me and goes, hey, Papajohn, but the thing was, it felt so real. It was the real horses, the wardrobe. Hey, Papajohn, that was a great take, but you're saying a lot of things that aren't in the script. I said exactly what Major John Cloud said that day. She goes, what? She goes, I got to listen to the real recording on YouTube, and that's what he said. And I listened to it for like 7 hours. She goes, oh, keep doing what you're doing. It was a moment of earning, being able to voice, and then she could either say at that moment, I don't know if I was going to say this either, you earn moments to speak up. And to be able to go, hey, this is the homework I did, and she could either say, hey, well, let's just stick to the script, and if she did, I'd say, okay, no problem.
But you gave it a full run the first time.
There's something about letting things rip, especially on the first take. I always like to add a little bit, or not to have more dialogue if it's authentic and real, whatever it might be. And it's great handling props and to be. You know what? I will say this. I have something I always got to watch myself. I'm high strung, so I speed up. So that's one thing. My breath, I try to always slow back down, like slow down. Breathe, because of the speeding things up, you can do things that aren't present. And just to remind myself to do that, It's like being here with you. I enjoy the conversation.
This is awesome. Man, this is so cool.
Cool, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. Go Tigers, man.
Go Tigers. You got it.